Hello everyone, this is Serena from DevPost. I am joined by Krista Summit and Jonas Hendrickx. While we wait for folks to join, we're just going to hang out for a couple of minutes here as people pop on. But if you are an early viewer or starting at the beginning of this recording, please note that there is going to be a little cursor at the bottom, or excuse me, a pull bar at the bottom of your screen. So if you want to watch us in real time, go ahead and pull that all the way to the right. Otherwise, it will start at the beginning and you'll be lagging a little bit behind, which is also totally okay. If you would like to ask a question at any point during this webinar, there is a question and answer box to the right hand of your screen, and you should be able to ask a question, and then we will view and respond to those in the order that they're received. So I'll repeat all that again once people pop on, but for now we'll just hang out for a minute as folks join. Okay, well, let's go ahead and get started, and people can catch up as they join throughout the presentation. So again, my name is Serena Petruska. I work with DevPost, and I am joined today by Krista Summit from Lenovo and Jonas Hendrickx, who is a Lenovo insider and who will be giving us some technical assistance today. So we're really excited to talk to you guys not only about multi-user, multi-touch, but also about the multi-touch, multi-hack competition that Lenovo is running on DevPost. So what are we talking about today? We are going to talk about what is Lenovo Dev, get a little bit of an introduction to that and the Lenovo experience for developers. We're going to talk a little bit about the actual competition, the multi-touch, multi-hack competition. And then Jonas is going to walk us through getting started with the Windows SDK and also coding with MUMT using the Windows SDK. So he's going to do a live demo of that. We also will have time for QA at the end, around 20 minutes for QA at the end. So if you at any point have a question, and whether it's something we've talked about yet or something completely different, you can go ahead and ask that question using the QA box on the right side of your screen. At the end of our presentation, we'll go through those in the order that they're received, and if there are any that we don't know the answer to, we'll just review those offline and send out an update to everybody after the fact with those additional answers. Again, there is kind of a little time bar at the bottom of your screen. So if you feel like you're delayed and you see that there is time ahead of you, you can pull up to real time and get your questions answered that way as well. And finally, if you are watching this later on and you have questions about anything that was discussed, you can always ask them onto the discussion board, the Slack channel, or the Lenovo Dev forums. So with that, I'm going to give it over to Krista, and she can walk us through Lenovo Dev.
Okay. Hi, thanks, Serena, and thanks everybody for watching, whether you're on live now or you're on later. My name's Krista Summit, and I'm the Chief Storyteller, as I call myself, for the Lenovo Developer Program. And it's my job to make developers aware of our technologies and what tools we have available to code for those technologies on our devices that we sell, and also to make you aware of distribution and discovery opportunities for your apps that you either have already or you develop now. So let me just kind of give you the best way I think to show and talk about Lenovo Dev is just to show you our web portal, Serena. So I'm going to do a little screen share here, and you'll still hear me talking. I'm just going to show you the portal that we have. Okay. All right. So this is the Lenovo Dev.com portal. This is where all the activity for Lenovo developers happens. This is our hub for information, for registration, for activities, etc. So we have a rather niche, streamlined program. We support and we accept submissions of Windows 8 and 10 apps, Windows desktop apps, and also HTML5 web apps. So you see here, this is your typical, news header where the latest news comes in, such as the hackathon. And Serena's going to talk a little more about that in a moment. Here you see how to get to our key technologies, including we'll talk today about multi-user, multi-touch. Also our handwriting technology. Also some of the things we do with Pen. And then, here we have other, news items, and you can come and see what events are going on around the developer world and so forth. Okay, so let me just talk for 2 seconds about Lenovo Developer Program and why you might want to partner with Lenovo. As you can see here from this infographic, you may or may not know, but Lenovo is the #1 PC manufacturer in the world, according to IDC. We're also #3 in tablets, and although our program doesn't include smartphones right now, it's worth mentioning we are #3 manufacturer of smartphones worldwide. We have a dual headquarters in Beijing, China, and Morrisville, North Carolina, in the Research Triangle Park area. And we, according to IDC, ship upwards of 15 million PC devices per quarter around the world. Now, why is that important for you? Number one, I think because of innovation, we've got some unique hardware technologies such as the multi-user, multi-touch, and the table PC platform, our multi-mode tablets and detachables in the Yoga line. Also, we're doing a lot of things partnering with Intel in terms of RealSense 3D and Pen, and you've heard us also in the future talk about and announce at CES what we'll be doing with partnering with Google, working on augmented reality and Project Tango. So a lot of things, exciting things going on now, a lot of exciting things going on in the future. So how do we do this? So we have several unique discovery properties both on the web and actually on those 15 million devices that I talked about. One is Lenovo Pix, which I'll show you in a moment, which is our web discovery property that is part of Lenovo.com, our shopping site and corporate site. And then also we have an app called Lenovo Companion, which has a lot of get started technology and content, as well as we have the way to surface and promote specific apps on device. And then lastly, just a little more about Lenovo. We did win quite a lot and continue to win quite a lot of awards, significant awards at CES. This is a combination of all the things we won this year, 2016. So we feel like we've got a lot to offer in terms of distribution and technology and discovery, and let you take a little more control of promoting your app, regardless of the size of your company. Okay. And again, real quick, just a quick rundown of some of the technologies that we promote. I mentioned the Write It intuitive handwriting technology that lets you implement handwriting technology in your app, whether or not you've implemented it yourself. So that's pretty exciting. We've got, as I mentioned, some contextual computing offerings as far as RealSense 3D, gesture, touch, etc. Multi-user, multi-touch computing, which we'll talk about today. We have a few apps, a few devices that do NFC, also pen technology, and Ultrabook in combination with Intel. Now, let me just show you a little bit about how this actually works, how this actually plays out in terms of promoting your app and getting your app content to us. So it's totally free to join, and what you do is here you would come into our portal and you would fill out an individual developer application here, your settings, whether you want to opt in for email, and then this also gives you the opportunity, as you see here, to submit your app content. So what that actually looks like, if we go over here, once you fill out your profile and you get your login and your password, is and I'm going to go with the Windows Store example, but real quick, you've got Windows Store apps, and then basically what you're going to give us is the content that you've given to Microsoft for the Windows Store. Okay, and we link to that and pull from that in our database to promote it out. So you see here description, images, your geographies. Also, I think I passed it up. Technologies that your app may be optimized for. And why that's important is then when you come over here to our discovery properties. So first, this is our web presence on Lenovo.com. What happens is the content that you submit here gets promoted here and pushed here. Okay, so. And this is can be seen by anybody that comes to Lenovo.com and wants to see what software that we are promoting, featuring, what others are using, and so forth. Okay, so that's on the web. Now, our newest tool, which we've just started to roll out, which also runs off of this app content submission here, is Lenovo App Explorer. And so what we've done is listen to our customers, and rather than having preloaded software that you may or may not want, we've got an Explorer discovery recommendation tool that users may or may not opt into. It is available. It will be available on all Windows devices right now. It's currently only shipping on all Lenovo consumer notebooks, which is quite a lot of devices, but we're continuing to roll it out to all Windows devices across the rest of the year. But the idea is this lets customers discover and install your app very easily in one place. We try to, be smart about it and extend the App Store experience so that they can personalize their system the way they want to, but not having something on there they don't want and then they just take it off. Also, we are making these safer than ever before, so people don't have to worry about an app harming their system or stealing their data and that sort of thing. And it lets people basically really take control of what goes on to their computer, as you see here. So here's some. Now this is just the promotional page. This is isn't the actual tool, but the point is, the tool will look somewhat like this. And again, joining our program and submitting your content is the way to get the process started for your app to be featured on this tool on most of those 15 million devices per quarter that we ship that I talked about. We're very interested in all categories: games, entertainment, productivity, across the board. So we really encourage you to go to lenovodev.com and register. Get in touch with us. We'd love to dialogue with you further and see about how we can work together and get your app promoted. We also have a loaner program. So if there's a device and you're getting close to testing and you want to test on an actual hardware device, we do have a loaner program available for members. We also have a discount program for members if you want to purchase hardware yourself. We do offer an affinity type discount on our hardware. And that's it. So Serena, I think I'll give it back over to you, and thanks for the time.
Sounds good. Thanks, Krista. So just to quickly jump off of what Krista was saying about the loaner program and all of that, there are some devices available, which is great, but they are in limited supply. So if you're not able to get a hold of one of those, or you prefer to kind of do things more quickly on your own time, Jonas is going to be showing you some emulator options as well, so that you can kind of see your code working in real time. So I do know that Jonas has lots to push us through, and we have a limited time with you guys today. So I do just kind of want to run through very quickly, what is this competition? What are we asking you to do? Really, the bottom line is we're asking you to build multi-user, multi-touch tools, applications, for the Lenovo Yoga Home PCs. So it can run with Windows 8, it can run with Windows 10, just needs to implement one of the multi-user or multi-touch features or both, and then it should be eligible for that. There are a few specific requirements that you can view on the actual competition website, and everyone who's watching this should have access to that. We'll also post a link to that on the page once this webinar is over. So I'm not going to run through all of that right now in the interest of time. I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Jonas to get into the very fun and exciting code samples and how to do all this stuff. Jonas, I think you're on mute right now.
Okay. Let me quickly fire up my presentation. Okay.
You want to introduce yourself, Jonas?
Hello everyone, I'm Jonas Hendrickx. I'm from Belgium. I am a Microsoft MVP in Windows Experience since 2014. I joined the Lenovo Insiders, which is a group of fans and an advocacy group of Lenovo. I became a Lenovo Dev technical expert somewhere in September last year. My first contact with Lenovo was somewhere in 2013. I purchased a IdeaPad Y500, which was a gaming laptop, and eventually I ended up buying myself a ThinkPad after listening to diehard ThinkPad fans. Now let's get started. What do you need? Well, okay. You need Visual Studio 2015. The Community Edition is available for free. If you have an MSDN subscription or you already have Visual Studio, you can also use that. I use the Enterprise Edition myself. The Windows 10 SDK is included in Visual Studio 2015. You can always grab the latest version on TechNet. I believe the current version is build 10,500 86. Now let's start with the first sample, basic touch input. I will right now open my Visual Studio project I prepared. So there are many different ways you can capture touch inputs. Now there are many input devices. You can either have a mouse, you can use your fingers for touch input, or you have a digitizer pen, but each of them behaves more or less differently. Let's see. Now over here we have the pointer pressed and pointer released events hooked up to this rectangle. Now when I hover about it, nothing happens. When I click my left mouse button, it says pressed. When I release it, it shows released. When I do the same with my finger, I put my finger on the screen, as you can see. You should see a black-gray circle. And if I release it again, it says released. Now, how this is done in the code. Let me show you. I have here my main page XAML file. I have a border, which is the gray rectangle you see. And inside I've put a label. Now to the border I have attached these two events, the pointer pressed event and the pointer released event. In the backend of the XAML file, they're written like this. Now they're only the pointer pressed event is only triggered once. For example, when you're clicking inside the rectangle or border area, when you touch it with your finger, or when you hover, or no, when you write with a pen. That's a mistake. Now, if you keep pressing your finger on the gray rectangle, it's not triggered again, it's only triggered once. Same goes for the released event over here. It's only triggered once, so once you remove your finger, well, that's harder to explain. Now let's move again to my application. Now the pointer entered and pointer exited is also very useful because it indicates whether the touch input happens within the area you actually wanted. For example, if I'm here, it doesn't matter, but when I enter the area with my mouse, it triggers the entered event. When I exit, it shows exited. Now when I do the same with my finger, you can see here is my finger now. When I enter the area, it shows entered and now exited. Now for the mouse, it's enough to hover above the area, but with your finger you actually need to touch the screen. So make sure when you use these events that they don't give a conflict, or that you at least check whether you're using the mouse or touch input. I will show this also in a second. Here are the pointer entered and pointer exited. Now they also only happen once because okay, they only happen once. So once you entered, it stays that way. So if I unplug my mouse, or it stays entered until I go outside, then the exited is triggered. It doesn't mean that the entered is continuously triggered. Now pointer moved is a little bit different because every pixel you move inside the border actually means that the event is triggered. Now, let me see over here. So what you need to do is capture the coordinates of the pointer. So what we do over here is we find out the sender elements, which is our border or canvas. In this case, it was the canvas. Yes, correct. And I save this in a pointer points variable. Then I add this to the polyline moved. For example, okay, so we have a polyline inside the canvas. Now, when I add a point to the polyline, you draw actually a line because it gets the last coordinate and then it adds the next one. So let me show you. So when I move my mouse, now when I do the same with my finger, you get a beautiful line. Now when I leave the area, it won't matter. So in terms of implementation of the pointer moved, make sure that you don't apply too much code behind it. That could especially impact your performance of the application, because as you can see, it's very sensitive. I can actually log this into the console just to show you. Okay. Let me try it like this. So going to make this smaller now. Now look at this area over here at the bottom right. Now as you can see, there are a lot of prints in the console, so don't overuse it. Make sure you don't put too much code behind the pointer moved event. Now let's see. The second sample, I'm going to make this from scratch in front of you because this is a little bit more complicated. You may encounter a little bit of issues on the way. So the first thing we're going to do is implement something. So we're going to draw a rectangle on the screen, and then we're going to move it with our finger. So I'm going to get this sample over here. Now I'm going to add a rectangle. I'm going to fill it with maybe a red color, like this. Height 200 pixels, width also 200 pixels. Now, when we run the application, okay, it takes a little bit to compile. nothing happens. So there's nothing I can do. It stays put. Now, I found this page particularly useful, touch interactions. When you scroll to the bottom, see, here are the ones I explained a little bit earlier. There are a few samples over here in C++ and C#. Now here are the ones I'm going to cover, but a little bit more advanced. So let's get started. So we're now going to add a translate transform to move the rectangle. So what I'm first going to do is add manipulation mode all. Manipulation delta. Okay. Now I'm going to create a variable here, rectangle, sender. So the sender is the object that triggers the events. Now we're going to move it. But first, to do that, we need to add our translation transform. Render transform. Okay, and inside the render transform, you're going to put your those translations, for example, translate transform, composite transform, rotate transform, or scaling. So I'm going to add the translate transform now here. Now I'm going to give this a meaningful name. So it's move transform. Okay. Now I'm going to go back to my code over here. Now move transform. Here is where we were going to put the new coordinates. So, which is E point, then we're getting delta. This is difference compared to the first state. Translation X. And we're going to do the same for Y. And we're going to add this to the original value. So if you move to the left, it's going to be negative, but it will still subtract. So let's see how this goes. Okay, it works. So now we're going to add a second one, which is scaling. Yes, we're going to add scaling. So we're going back to our main page, XAML, and we're going to add it right over here. Scale transform. Give it a meaningful name. Then we're going back to our code. And we're going to scale it right over here. Now we're getting the delta value again, and there should be a property scale. I think I made a mistake. I need to get a new name for it because it's conflicting. Okay, so right now we're getting a conflict that it doesn't exist, but actually it does. And what is the reason? So the property render transform is set more than once. So what is the issue? You can only set this property once, so you can only put one element inside. So what do you have to do? You have to create a render group inside. Transform group, over here it is. And then we're going to add them again. And now it doesn't give an error. And now this one is accepted at the same time. We're also going to set the Y value. Now let's test. So now I'm going to pinch with my fingers, and it works. Okay, now we're going to add rotation. My rotate transform. Let's first see if this works. And we're going to use angle. And then from parameter E, we're getting E delta rotation. Okay, let's see if this works. Now there is going to be a little problem with this. I'm going to explain this in a second, because we still need to set a center. See, I'm actually moving left and right. This is wrong, but you can correct this. So what we're going to do is save. We're going to get the center and also save the previous states. Okay. So what we now need is the center of this. So I need to give it quickly a name. my transform group, point value. Now this is our previous value. Now we're getting the center. No, it has to be different. Hold on. Previous transform. Okay. Let me see. Okay, my transform group, and then we need to get the value from this and store it there. Now I'm getting the center. Then we're getting the position from parameter again. Okay, now it's correct. Now we're going to rectangle composite. Now we're going to set the center. Okay, now it's correct. So if we rotate now, everything should be okay. Let me quickly try this again. Something went wrong. It might be because of the scaling. Okay, so I'm quickly going to move to the next. So now we have various transform objects over here. You can actually combine them into one. So we get a composite transform. And now let me quickly peek. So that was where I made my mistake. I had to equal this. So this stays the same. My composite transform, center X. So now you're going to set all the same things again in my composite transform variable. So you don't have to create a new one every time. here is the rotation again. Okay, let's now see again. Okay. So right now it works perfectly. We can move it, or not. No, we can't move it, but we can rotate right now and scale it by using composite transform. Now I will upload these samples. Now also Microsoft does also samples online over here. They're hidden in a solution named Basic Input. There is C#, Visual Basic. And here you can have a few ideas how they work in those samples. Now make sure to read this page. It certainly gets you started. Here is also a bit of advice on design. Useful references. What could help you with your project? The Marmalade SDK is basically a game engine, same as Unity. Marmalade SDK is limited for C++ and Lua. Then Unity uses C# and JavaScript. GestureWorks is more or less an extension. So if you create an application and you want to extend it with touch input, you can use GestureWorks. It supports C++, .NET, Java, and Python. SharpDX. Now you can't use DirectX with .NET or C#. They developed a managed .NET wrapper for this. It's free to use. Also has plenty of documentation. If you use C++, you don't need it. Then we're going to the Intel's website for a second. They also have plenty of samples, but they're mostly limited to C++. And you can also find more information on the Lenovo Dev website over here. Plenty of materials. For example, how to use your phone for touch input and register it in your application, or using the eDice, which I will show a little bit later. Okay.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Jonas.
Okay. I'm ready.
All right, cool. Well, I would love to open it up to everybody to go ahead and ask some questions of Jonas if they have some. I know he did a comprehensive overview of quite a few different things that you can do with the touch inputs using Windows 10 SDK. And we, like he said, we are going to put those code samples up and get them out to you guys. We're also going to make sure that we get his whole presentation up so you have access to all of those links and fun stuff as well. So those will go up within the next few days along with this recording for anyone who didn't get to write them all down or what have you. But Now's definitely the time. We've got about 10 more minutes to ask any questions you might have, whether they're specifically about the code, about the competition overall, about Lenovo Dev overall. Go ahead and fire those away, and we will answer them in the order that we get them. All right, and just to give some quick tips while we are waiting for questions to come in, don't forget that as part of your submission, and again, submissions are due June 14th at 5 p.m. Eastern, but as a part of your submission, not only do you need to give us access to your actual application, and there's instructions based on if you're a Windows 10 or Windows 8 application on the site, but you also need to create a demonstration video, and that could be as simple as just showing the screen running on your device and doing a screencast and just kind of talking through what it's doing. You can do some promo stuff in there as well, but the biggest thing is we want to make sure we're seeing your application in action. So do make sure that you do that. Okay, we got our first question in. Okay, question says, I see on the resources page that there are dev tools like GestureWorks, Unity 3D, and Marmalade. Do I have to use one of those to enable MUMT functions? That is a good question. So I think I'm going to take a stab at this, and then Jonas, maybe you can confirm if I'm right. But my understanding is that the Windows SDK actually does handle the MUMT functions on its own, but these are some other things that you might be more familiar with, or that might help you do additional manipulations, if you will. Is that right, Jonas, or do you have anything to add to that?
It can save you some time using the Marmalade SDK or Unity because they are more or less game engines and they have a lot of documentation. Now you can also use the Windows 10 SDK and maybe have a little bit more freedom because then you're not limited to a game engine. But it's totally up to you. Both are fine and will get you to the same results.
Okay, cool. So is it possible, just to follow up on that question, to use a little bit of both, or do you kind of have to pick one or the other?
They will have to pick one or the other.
All right. Next question is, does my app have to allow both multi-user and multi-touch? That's a good question. The answer is it does not have to allow for both. Obviously, the more functions you add in, the cooler your app is going to be. But per the requirements, you either need to add one or another, or if you would like to add both, that's totally fine as well. All right. Another question just came in. If I don't have a Yoga Home device, how can I make a demo video? That is a great question, and I'll let Krista and Jonas lead on to my answer, but you're not required to, with your demo video, show it necessarily on a Yoga Home device. If you show it working on an emulator, or you show it working on a tablet or another device that can run a Windows 8 or Windows 10 app using MUMT, that's fine. We will have a way to test and make sure that it will run on the Yoga Home later on in the competition. So don't worry too much about that. The main thing that we want to see is that, that you are using the functions, that it is a Windows 10 or a Windows 8 app, and that we can kind of see what cool things it does. Next question. Jonas, this is one for you. Are there a set number of manipulation types? Can we make up our own manipulations?
Yes, there are a few built in. Of it, I just showed a few minutes ago. We had rotation, scale, moving. Now you can also define your own, either using the low level. I believe there is also another one, gesture settings, which was in the Windows samples, but you can definitely define your own. But I would mostly avoid try to create custom gestures because many people won't be familiar with them, and they will have difficulty using your application. So don't try anything too complex. Make sure it's usable by a non-techie person.
Good point. That's a very good point. All right, next question. What is a low-level touch input? Jonas, that one's for you.
Okay. So remember the pointer moved event I showed earlier? That was unfiltered sensor data that came in. Now, ideally, when you want to do something, now sometimes you want unfiltered data, just raw pointer positions from your screen, or sometimes you want to smooth things out. For example, if you're creating something with sensors, you always want to make sure there isn't something happening there is not supposed to. So yes, that's basically it, I think. Yes.
All right, we have one more question there. Oh, it looks like I've got a question here too. Cool. So another question that just came in through the chat was, what are some current examples of multi-touch apps on the market that I could check out? That's a great question. So I know that we've got a few examples on our resources page, but Krista, do you have any other examples that you think we should be pushing forward to folks?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Thanks, Stephanie. So we've had this technology for about 2 years, and originally it was called the Horizon, Lenovo Horizon, and now we have kind of rebranded and come up with a couple different models, and it's called Yoga Home. So for that, we had initially and continue to have some small and large shops develop apps for Yoga Home specifically. So some good examples to look at, and I think some of these are on the resource page that Stephanie mentioned, but one I would recommend right off the bat is Marmalade Studios has done some custom work to optimize the game of life, the game Risk, and then of course everybody knows the game Scrabble, specifically to take advantage of all those technologies that Jonas just talked about for Yoga Home and multi-touch and multi-user, and show you different views and all the kind of things. So that's one that's really nice. And we've also got an article on DevPost as well as on Lenovo Dev, where we interviewed their head of studio. Another one I'm real excited about, and full disclosure, I used to be the business development manager for, is called StageLight, and that's by a company called Open Labs in Austin, Texas. And StageLight is a music creation app that runs on Windows platform. But if you're a musician, or if you want to learn how to make music, learn how to make beats, or techno or electronic music or what have you, it is it's a great app. It's stagelight.com, and they developed initially from the beginning, developed this app specifically for Yoga Home. So if you go to openlabs.com, I think /stagelight, you can see it. And again, there's some examples of it, I think, on the DevPost site and on lenovodev.com. Those are two that are really, really cool. It allows you can get started making a song in 10 minutes.
That's fantastic. So it sounds
Very
like
nice.
There's a lot of flexibility, not just for games, but also for other types of media.
Absolutely.
Which is really cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. So we are actually at the end of our presentation. We're at the end of our hour, but I want to thank everybody for hanging out with us. We're going to post this online, as I mentioned, along with links to Jonas's presentation and his code samples. So if you couldn't see anything or wanted to dig in deeper or get a better look or just didn't follow everything, got caught up in the middle, there's going to be places for you to check all that stuff out for this competition and potentially beyond as well, which is a great resource for everybody. And again, submissions are due June 14th, 5 p.m. If you have other questions after watching this video, you can go ahead and ask them in the Slack channel or on the discussion board, and we will get you answers just as quickly as we can. We cannot wait to see what you build, and we're very excited that you're taking part in this competition. So thanks very much.
Thank you, Stephanie. Thanks, Jonas.
Bye.